Hello and welcome to Investor Spotlight. Today we have Dan Gitlin from Closed Title. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, you told me you have a great story about somebody your team, your title company was able to help this last year. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I got a random email from a realtor in the Tampa Bay area earlier this year, and they go, "Dan, do you know anything about this company? They're trying to buy the property subject to the existing mortgage. Have you heard of this company? Have you dealt with them before?" And funny enough, the company that was buying and made an offer on the property was an existing client of ours who buys a lot of properties across the country, subject to the existing mortgage. So the realtor and the seller were extremely nervous, as you can imagine. Like, we've never heard of selling a property subject to.
Mm, yeah.
How does it work? Like, what are the risks of this? And I'm like, well, it's funny you guys stumbled upon the right company to talk to about this because most title companies probably would have no idea how this works. So they had their attorney involved. I can't remember the whole backstory about why they wanted to sell the property subject to. No, they had it listed for a while. They couldn't sell it. They couldn't afford the mortgage payments. I don't know if they moved out of it. I can't remember, but it was a really desperate situation. The fact that they really had no equity and they really couldn't carry the payments anymore. So their options were either selling it subject to or probably face a imminent foreclosure.
Mm,
So I explained that I had worked with a buyer before. This is a well-known client, very reputable client. And, we started walking through the whole process of what happens when a buyer buys subject to, and then what are the risks of it from a seller standpoint. So we typically structure these in a way that is both fair and equal risk for both the buyer and seller on these. And in that sense is, hey, what happens if the buyer stops paying my mortgage?
right.
Well, our recommendation is you would close it in a land trust. If the buyer stops making payments, you become the beneficiary of the land trust. So there is no foreclosure process. So you're very well protected. And we went back and forth, back and forth. This was maybe an $800,000 subject to in the Tampa area. Um, and we were able to close the deal with both the listing agent, the seller's attorney, and the seller all being completely comfortable with the transaction from start to finish. And most title companies in the country probably have no idea how to do a transaction with subject to, let alone the experience of being able to understand the pitfalls of the transaction and the different ways to structure it. And the land trust is only one way to structure it, by the way. But there are many other ways to structure it. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a happy seller. There was a wholesaler in the middle that was our client, and then there was an end buyer who purchased the property subject to the existing mortgage, and everybody walked away, a winner in a situation. Before that was imminent foreclosure, distressed situation, wholesaler not making any money, the buyer not getting the property. So we were able to pull all the pieces together and close the deal, and everybody was walked away as a happy camper. So
Yeah, that's great. And I know that's one of the things that sets you guys apart, Closed Title, is that you guys, the founders of it, you have a background in real estate investing. So you understand all these strategies that these investors are using. And so you can bring all those different strategies to the closing table and figure out what's going to work best for your clients, right?
yeah, so before I became owner of a title company, 2007, kind of bring you back to my history.
Hmm.
We were I started with a couple guys who ran the biggest wholesale company in Florida for many years. And back then we were actually like almost really wholesaling properties to the point where when you think of wholesale, you buy bulk and you sell individually. So in 2008, 9, 10, we were buying packages, 10, 20 houses, or even non-performing notes, and we were literally buying them and then wholesaling them off individually. Um, and obviously the whole business has evolved since that original distress situation in 2008, 9, 10. And but I did that for many years. Ran the whole closing department for that company. I think I started with I was the first employee. There was three of us. So when I left in 2014, I think we had over 100 employees. Um, and because of that, had a lot of experience closing messy deals, foreclosures, short sales. You name it. Back then, things were very, very messy. So I learned the closing business, from the ground up, and then became a general contractor, house for myself. I rehabbed and sold I don't even know, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of houses in Florida. Total wholesale, probably 5,000 houses, 10,000 houses. I don't even
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
As like the principal decision maker, and the one closing the deal and collecting the paycheck at the end. So once you see a lot of volume, you kind of see every scenario possible, even though nothing shocks me these days because I see something crazy every day. But
Right.
and then it was around 2018, I started, hey, the kind of the stress foreclosure market in Florida is kind of over. What's going to be my next venture? And I'm like, what's the lowest hanging fruit there is in this business? I was like, all the title companies I deal with, they suck. They have no idea how wholesalers think. They don't understand this business. They don't
Right.
understand how to navigate the stressed sellers and the wholesaler in the middle. And then you got the end buyer with maybe a hard money lender. And how do you kind of keep everyone, I call it, it's like a big dance, trying to keep everyone happy and kind of,
Right.
massaging the transaction at the closing table. So we started Closed Title in 2018, and with really just a niche business and to work with real estate wholesalers essentially.
Yeah.
And now we're probably one of the largest nationwide real estate wholesale companies in the country because of that. And I still get pulled into and want to get involved in very complex transactions and put my thinking cap on so we can solve, all of the issues in the transaction. How do we get this closed? Because back then, I was closing in and trying to make that 5 or 10,000 dollar paycheck. I make a lot less per deal now, but it's still, to me, it's just that drive to like, hey, let's think outside the box here, think creatively, and how can we get this deal closed? And that's kind of the biggest difference between, I'd say, 99.9% of title companies and closed title is just that we're really like founded and run by investors who know the business. So
Yeah,
um,
that's great. I mean, it really is all about problem solving. You're out there. No two deals are alike, right? Like you said, nothing surprises you because there's always a curveball in there somewhere. And with the experience you guys have, you can figure out solutions and problem solve, because of that experience. Yeah, you guys have had some pretty dynamic growth, right, in this last year. Tell me about
yeah,
that.
we're basically doubling or tripling our business every year for 5 or 6 years in a row.
Wow.
Um, and I know anyone's in the real estate market, the kind of everything generally peaked in 2021 with the refinance market and the retail, real estate market and the house flipping kind of peaked, the transaction volume. But we've, started, small in 2020, 2021, and we just keep doubling and tripling every year. And I think we over doubled our business already in 2025 this year. So, and December last month was our best month ever by far, which is, for me, I'm very proud of that because December tends to be a very slow month,
Right.
with a lot of the snow states, right? Florida and Texas not so much, but you start looking at real estate transaction closing volumes in Chicago and Michigan and Pennsylvania this time of year. It's a third of what is in the summer. So
Yeah.
a good December for us bodes very well for the company as a whole for the full year. So
Yeah, and how many states you guys have expanded from? I think you were just in a handful of states at the beginning of last year, and now you're in how many states?
we're I think 40 now. So we went
Wow.
from beginning of this 2025, I'd say probably 4 or 5 states we were licensed in.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
now we're in 40. So
That's amazing.
working on a few more. California, Oregon, Washington State are on the bucket list to get next. But yeah, we'll probably be at about 45 states within the year. Um, which any national title company, that's about pretty much the maximum you can go because of the attorney states and Alaska and things like that. So those are kind of like
Right.
almost impossible to kind of operate in as a national title company. So we're proud of where we
Gotcha.
are at.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic growth. That's really great. Just a testament to the fact that you guys are doing the right things and helping your clients out. So
Yeah, we,
that's
we take
really
a little
great.
different approach to the business than most title companies. We're in the insurance business, which a lot of people don't really think of title companies in the insurance business. They're more,
Right.
hey, these guys get the deal closed, right? They take the money and they distribute it back out. But at the end of the day, we're also in the insurance business, which is a risk-based business, right? So, you know, having an engineering background and a lot of mathematical background, we think of things a little bit differently. And our underwriter that we partner with is one of the best and thinks about things on a risk-adjusted basis as well. So we're not super strict on, hey, this is the rule. We can't close it because of this. It's always like, what are the risks of closing this transaction?
Right.
What's the downside? What's the upside? I know there's underwriting guidelines, right? Different things. And as long as you look through things through the lens of risk and say, hey, how can I minimize the risk? How can we get this deal closed at the same time? That allows us to make decisions that a lot of our title companies aren't willing to, or really just quite frankly aren't even thinking about things like that. They have like their checklist and they check the boxes and that's it. I'll give you another example of a deal that I was closing today.
Yeah.
In the state of Texas, there's a 30-day waiting period for if you have a judgment against you and you have a homestead property you want to sell. Typically, you have to wait 30 days to notify the creditor that you're selling your homestead and the judgment does not attach to your homestead. So, the client was like, "Hey, is there any way to get this closed sooner?" I'm like, "Yeah, like the judgment's 60,000. Let's hold 80,000 in escrow. We'll give the creditor notice today. They have 30 days to come back and just try to fight the fact that it's your homestead, and but we can still close, hold the money in escrow, and notify the creditor, and the seller won't get their 80,000 for 30 days, but we can close the deal today." And he goes, "Dan, I'm moving." He had this deal at two other title companies that couldn't figure this out, and now he brought it to us, and we're going to get it closed in 3 days for him.
There you go.
So no, there's no harm, no done. The judgment creditor is protected in case it really wasn't his homestead. The seller can close now and get his money in 30 days. So this is one little example of a very simple thing that took 3 title companies to come to before they came to us. And we're like, hey, yeah, we can close this because we're thinking outside the box a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's really the secret to the success of what we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime you can think outside the box and problem solve for people, especially when other people are not solving those problems, it's going to set you ahead of them. And I bet those people are going to come back to you next time they need a title company for their deal, right? So that's
Oh,
great.
he said he's moving every single closing to us now. He goes, I can't believe the fact that you guys are able to close this deal, and took my main 2 title companies I use all the time, just really couldn't think outside the box like that. So it's that simple.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add that would set, closed title apart from the other title companies out there?
Just so that we have basically specialized teams handling sub twos and silent seconds. We have other teams that do assignments, double closes. We have a refinance team that handles refinances, even DSCR refinances. And we are rolling out same day closing ready title packages for refinances next week. So if you're a lender or you're a borrower and you have a DSCR loan or a regular loan you want to close, we can get the completed search and title package same day moving forward. So,
That's great.
and on
Yeah.
purchase business, it'll be Texas and Florida same day searches as well.
Awesome. So speed, add that to the mix.
Speed, yeah, we're just
Creativity,
always trying to
problem
improve.
solving, speed. You add all that together. That's a win all the way around. So, well, how can people get a hold of, if they want your services, get a hold of you, get a hold of Closed Title? What's the best way for people to reach out and initiate a transaction with you guys?
Closehill.com has all the information on there. All of our office locations, even though we operate, virtually across most states as well. There is a button on there you can order title right on the website. You just put the property address in, what type of transaction it is, wholesale, double close, assignment, sub two, whatever it may be, refinance. That order form just goes straight in our title production system and opens an order immediately. So all the automations start, the welcome emails, you name it. And that's the easiest way to start working with us. So
That's great. That's great. And I know you mentioned you guys do seller carrybacks, which is something that we specialize in as well. So I'm excited that we will do some business together in the future.
yep, experts in the seller carryback stuff. So if there's a creative way to close deals, we're on top of it. Novations, a big one for us as well. So
That's awesome. Well, and also just on a personal note, my wife, my son-in-law may be in Tampa this summer, so we might be able to come by and visit you guys.
perfect.
And yeah, we love that area. It's great, and there's a lot of business going on in that. A lot of real estate happening in Florida right now, so it's a good place to be.
Yep. Florida's always things are moving in Florida, coming and going, people. So mostly coming, but
Yeah,
sometimes
no,
going.
exactly. Good stuff. Well, hey, Dan, thanks so much for being on here, and we will be in touch soon. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Tim.
All
Appreciate
right.
having me here.
Thank you. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Investor Spotlight. I hope you got some value out of this. So if you did, please click the big button there to like and subscribe, and tune in, check out some of our other videos.